We've officially seen metas evolve in OP10, Starter Deck 21, EB02, and even different iterations happen in OP09. Just like we have with a ton of other previous Market Watch videos, there's a ton of cards that people haven't started getting yet for their collections that they're gonna need for these upcoming formats. So just like I saved you a ton of money in the past, I'm here to tell you how you can save money in the future. But first, a word from our sponsor. If you're looking to bling out and have sleek new additions to your accessories for your decks, playmats, sleeves, etc., go ahead and check out Sleeve Chief. Sleeve Chief recently during the holidays released 30 new products on their website for you to get right now. If you love having custom Dawn sleeves, they've got excellent new Dofi, God of Thunder, Gear 5. Even the Mochi Demon and Law sleeves just look so good. If you like having an entire theme of deck box, playmat, border sleeves, Dawn sleeves, they've got a Flame Brothers bundle that looks so good, all centered around one of the more popular characters in the game, Ace. Hanging out with Luffy and Sabo in some of the designs as well. Various playmats and gorgeous deck boxes on their website. If you're interested in any of these things, make sure to use code Atrocious at checkout for 5% off your order. Not only would you be helping support the channel, but you would also get some of your new favorite products along the way. Thank you so much to Sleeve Chief for sponsoring this video, and let's get back to what we were talking about before. Now, the first one I'm going to talk about is Gum Gum Red Roc. So Gum Gum Red Roc, it's very simple. You probably only need like 2 of them or something like that. This is an OP04 event reprinted in PRB01. But out in the East, you've kind of seen a couple people and a couple different variations of deck lists, especially Doflamingo, play this event card. Especially if your local meta, right, has a ton of Blackbeard pirates, right? Or even like Shanks and stuff like that. This is a great card to be able to use in those matchups to be able to bottom deck different boss monsters. Also, stuff like 9-cost Zoro. It's also a really handy trigger if you're lucky enough to get it off, right? Especially in the mirror, because it can bottom deck anything your opponent plays not named Jozu in the mirror. Especially with the inclusion, right, that we've officially got with the 7-cost Buggy promo, part of the OP10 pre-release kits. There's going to be a slight uptick in Buggy, and Gravity Blade's not going to be able to bottom deck that card, so Red Roc is going to be a great answer to that. Not saying that Buggy will dominate the meta, but it's something that'll probably hang out for a little bit. Speaking of the 7-cost Buggy, make sure that you're getting your cross guild pieces, right? Because you're officially going to be able to build the Buggy deck in its prime, I will say, since that 7-cost Buggy is coming out. I mean, the leader is only $31, and in my opinion, this is an incredible leader. I love this art. But some of the other key pieces of this deck are super cheap, right? This crocodile right here, SR and OP09, it is 55 cents. That's $2 for a playset of these. Dracula Mihawk, another $2 just for a playset, right, of that base rarity SR. And then if you want to bling out your deck as well with some of the alternate arts, this Buggy, the 10 cost $12. $11 for the crocodile, less than 10 for the Mihawk. Like I'm not gonna lie, these arts are pretty fire. I love this Buggy. This alternate art looks so nice. Not gonna sit here and say that Buggy becomes a tier 1 deck or anything like that, but it becomes from probably not something super playable at all to very much a viable deck in the meta, right? We saw it in a top 16 run of the Japan Championship, so something's there, obviously. The 7 cost is a really nice boost. Now, it'll really just depend on if we get those promos or not, the crocodile, the Mihawk, to be able to take it to the next level, which I actually don't know off the top of my head if those were confirmed in like regionals and stuff. Let me know down in the comments if they are. I want to shout out a couple other cards for Buggy, specifically this Mr. 2 right here. I've seen this in a couple different Buggy lists out in the East, and I think it's really interesting, right? As it's a 5-cost, right? A searchable 2K counter has the ability to bottom deck 2 costs, right? When attacking. This can be Marshall D. Teach and Doflamingo. This can be Nico Robin Chum Blocker. This could be Vasco Shot Chum Blocker, right? Any sort of Chum Blocker in the format, or any of those important search cards can immediately get bottom decked because of this Mr. 2. You could also talk about different searchers, right? In Doflamingo, when they play Sengoku and then pick it back up later with Jozu or Trafalgar Law, this guy right here helps prevent that kind of cycle. Really, really interesting. Like this card in the deck, and it's from OP02, so I bet a lot of people, especially if you're newer to the game within the last like 6 months or so, you don't have this card. And it's not going to shoot up in price to like $5 or anything like that, right, for a rare. But as you can see, it's like 64 cents market value right now. I'm saying like once the Buggy promo comes out, it could move up to 80 cents, 90 cents. Saves you over $1 in the long run, which may not seem like much, but when you play card games, it adds up over time. Also with this Mr. 1 from EB01, this Daz Bones right here, this Daz Bones being able to have an on play of draw 2, trash 1, just super, super nice, right? Not in Buggy, you're not going to really get too much of the boost right here for all the event cards, but the on play itself is just so nice in my opinion. Now I'm going to talk about this Zoro real quick, and usually about every single video I have one card that's like kind of already expensive, like over $20, but I still think it's something to note, and that is Roronor Zoro, right? We saw the Lim player in the Asia finals, right, playing a full play set of this card, and green deck's a little bit on the rise, especially in EB02. Now, do I ever think that green purple Luffy would play this card? Not 100% sure. It's a little bit too costly in Dawn, and that 6 cost secret rare is really, really good. Do I think it could be played in Smoker, right? We saw Smoker win the Japan finals here on the channel and do so well overall. Another green deck. That one I could probably see a little bit more playing the Zoro, but seems a little interesting to say that. There's two things that I want to say also about this card. One, I think that it is more viable heading into the upcoming meta, so if you don't have these already, might want to go get them. But because I know that $24, right, $24 per is a little steep for some people, totally understand. Little bit for me too. I had to do some trading in order to get my playset filled. This secret rare will probably, this is an assumption, probably be reprinted in PRBO2. Now, it'll be a long time before we get PRBO2, right? It's not coming anytime soon. But because we know that they're going to be reprinting some of the more popular cards in the game, I would imagine that Zoro, being one of the better secret rares that have not been reprinted as of late, along with Silver's Rayleigh, will probably fit the bill in terms of the selection, right, reprinted in there. So it'll definitely tank the price if you just want to wait it out for the long run. I mean, we missed our time to be able to get these, my apologies, you know, back in November, but definitely something to keep an eye on. Now I'm going to keep talking about Lim stuff actually now that we're here. Blast Breath, right? An excellent counter event. Didn't see it in the Asia finals, right? But I think if you're specifically running like the Adio Kid package in that Lim deck, that's your choice, which I do think is somewhat viable, right? It really dominated the beginning of the OP10 format in Japan. Then Blast Breath is a really good option to have. If you didn't have the starter deck version, right, from Starter Deck 04 at the very beginning of the game's release, this was printed in PRB. As you can see here, we're looking specifically at the Jolly Roger foil in terms of its listing. There's so many listings, including an alternate art from the premium collection that's actually pretty decently cheap, right? $7.50. But yeah, like plenty of good options. You'll be able to find this card, especially as a regular, right? It was just printed in the main set, so you'll find this pretty easily. And also just a pretty good purple card, right? For one done, you get plus 4,000 power. Although you don't get to draw like Gum Gum Giant, Blast Breath is a really good card. So I mean, I don't really want to say this, but like if people are right in that Gum Gum Giant could be banned, I don't know if I believe it as of yet, but if it does, Blast Breath like gets almost the same amount of value. The only difference is that it doesn't draw cards, right? Which is huge, don't get me wrong, but one Dawn for 4,000 power is a lot, right? Who knows if they would start teching those cards. And you know what, while we're here, grab your Lim stuff, right, for the Lim deck. Lim is a good deck in OP10. It's not a great deck, not an incredible deck, but better and more viable than Buggy, that's for sure. And just really fun overall, in my opinion, right? The Adio that you can play in there, 26 cents. The Lim SR that you need a playset of, 43 cents. The Dofi that you play, 17 cents. The Sabo that you play, 10 cents. Rosinante that we saw in the Asia finals, right? Specifically in that deck list, 9 cents. I don't know where the regular ace is, but you play an ace 2K in here as well. Oh, 13 cents. This deck is one of the better ones in terms of cost to playability ratio. It's one of my favorites. I'm personally going to play it in 10. I think it's a really, really sick deck that gets so much better, right? And especially because it gets better in 10, I also kind of think that the SRs and stuff are naturally going to get a little higher. Look at this. Look at this parallel leader. It's $24. This is crazy. This is like half the price of a tank of gas in the West Coast. Its alternate art is $5, man. $10, 11 for a searcher. Like, I love the Lim deck. I think it's so much fun. I think you should play it. My gosh, there's like, it's so easy to build. We've also got Ben Beckman here. Ben Beckman, if you haven't heard in my last couple of videos, is just a generically good red SR that is included in a ton of decks, right? For an effect of 7,000 power, trashing a character of 6,000 power or less on the on play, it even has counter on it. So like, it is so viable in so many different decks, even when it's not searchable, right? And the Smoker deck at the Japan finals proved that. You definitely want to have a playset of these for the long run, right? Because I don't think he's going to be the last one to be playing this. Just the whole trash up to one of your opponent's characters instead of KO is just so good, and I think is going to be so viable for so long. Definitely want to make sure you have your playset of this. And you know what? Can we talk about how cheap the SRs right now in OP09? Like Ben Beckman playset in Shanks, playset in Smoker, generically good red card, $2 each. Marshall D. Teach, like the best card in Blackbeard, and Blackbeard in OP10 becomes like the best 2 decks, right? Alongside Doflamingo. You get a playset of SRs for like $5 total. That's crazy. Shanks, you need a playset of this card, and Red Purple Luffy also plays this card. I think even Red Purple Sugar I've seen plays this card. An incredible SR as well, and Boss Monster, less than $2 per card. Sanji, a great card in purple. Purple, a really good color right now. Pretty viable, $2.50, right? Almost $3 per. Still a pretty good price. Frankie, less than $1. Not really played, but you should have it in case something gets viable. Secret Rare Goldie Roger, right? We just talked about how Zoro is a $25 secret rare. Goldie Roger literally has text, you win the game, and lots of red decks play a one of this card. $6.50. The Luffy is played in so many different purple decks, right? This is a great card. $13. This is played so much more than 9 cost Zoro, and 9 cost Zoro is double the price. Like, these SRs are so good in this set and so cheap that if you don't have a playset of these, like, the set is plentiful, right? There was a ton of product open, and singles are all over the market, right? Like, if you're trying to stay affordable in this game and you're trying to stay on top of things without spending every single dollar that you own, now is an incredible time to buy OP09, especially for the longevity of this game. A lot of these cards that I've just mentioned are playable now, right? It's not like after PRB02, when some of these get reprinted in there, they'll be more viable. But like, if you've always wanted to play Blackbeard, it's pretty cheap, except for Laboons and Shigans, but that's a whole other story. Like, man, it's just crazy with this set. This set is so cheap, being a 2nd anniversary set. I love it. Okay, reeling it back a little bit, we're going to OP08 with Nami. This is a great SR that is included in a lot of different yellow decks, right? Having that on play effect of KOing a 5-cost character, right? The same kind of cost as this Nami when you play it down and then potentially draw a card on top of it is so nice for a deck and color that doesn't necessarily have a ton of draw outside of it. We also saw a Vegapunk, right, appear in the Japan finals because of its EB02 boost, right, of the 5-cost Vegapunk. And honestly, with the ban list, this is I do this a couple times in the video with some of the cards that I have. Think about the ban list in this way. I hate trying to predict what Bandai is going to do because I don't really think I know what Bandai is going to do because Bandai is super unpredictable a lot of times. But what are the chances that a Nell gets hit realistically, right? It's like little to none. Theoretically, a Nell really has only to gain with this ban list, right? Potentially taking a knock on Blackbeard, Doflamingo, Pluffy, any of those three kind of benefit a Nell a little bit. So I would say go get these Namis. Pretty good. Also, you may be wanting to think about this in the blue-yellow Nami deck potentially in OP11. I don't know. There are some lists that I see that play this card. And it's just, in my opinion, a generically good yellow card. You kind of see a theme here. Like, a lot of these cards are just generically good cards within that color. Speaking of good yellow cards, right? The secret rare Katakuri. I remember when this card was $77. Right, this was such a good card. Now that was kind of in the prime, I believe, of like Katakuri and a Nell, right, kind of ravaging the format, and that's definitely tamed down a little bit. But I can get a playset of this card cheaper than getting one of almost a year ago. That's crazy value. And it's all because of PRB01. Now, this did get reprinted in PRB01, so you're like, Jake, why are you talking about this card? Something that I've kind of started to think about in terms of PRB in general. There's a lot of stuff that got really cheap in PRB01, which was awesome, especially for the player base that is not absurdly rich, like myself. I was finally able to get a playset of this card without breaking the bank. But the thing about it is PRB02 is coming. I don't think that they'll reprint this card in PRB02, right? Katakuri got its card in PRB01. It got its limelight. They'll move on to other cards in PRB02. There are so many cards, and we even know that the set is going to be filled in with more unique cards than OP01. I think that this is going to continue going up and up again. It may never reach that $70 threshold, right? But this is probably the cheapest time from here on that you're going to be able to get the Charlotte Katakuri, especially since it just got a new starter deck, right? That didn't have a reprint of that. So, like, I don't know. I mean, I would get this card sooner rather than later because if not, even if you're not really playing yellow right now, there might be a point where you're like, oh God, I regret not getting these. And now they're 40 bucks again. Right? I don't know. Like, it might be a little bit more of a panic buy, but I just feel like you want to get the secret rare. Now, some of you in the comments pointed this out, especially at the tail end of the Japan finals. I love this card, Electrical Luna. I've been hyping up this card the entire Japan tournament, even previously before the Japan tournament in that 14 different green, purple, Luffy deck list videos that we talked about. This might just end up being a generically good green card. Now, I think it's premier in green, purple, Luffy because green, purple, Luffy with its Dawn manipulation really easy to utilize this card in comparison to something like Bonnie. But messing around with 7 costs or less is such a big deal, especially in this format. And it's definitely been on the rise a little bit in the last week. Now, again, this probably won't go to like a $5 card, right? But if you get this now, right, you might save like 20 cents per if it goes up to like 50. This is so good, being able to freeze almost an entire board, especially against Doflamingo, right? If they hit Doflamingo like just the Trafalgar Law, they just hit that card. They don't hit the leader. They don't hit Jinbei, right? Doflamingo is still going to be a pretty good and viable deck. So this is a great card against Doflamingo as we saw in one of the tournaments. Now, starter deck 18 Zoro Juro, right? Being able to find a searcher card, right? And especially from a more recent starter deck, this is going to be beneficial, right? In green, purple Luffy as we showcase. This is going to be beneficial in OP11 Luffy, right? The blue purple. I think they probably play this card, right? It's a 6,000 power searcher for 4. it's pretty good. And I know it's been on the uptick as of late, right? It's like a $4 card now, like $3.50, $4. So it's definitely more expensive than it was before the Japan finals. But I just think this is going to provide you a lot of dividends. I also think that this will get reprinted in PRBO2 though. I mean, this card's pretty good. And it's been a staple in a good archetype in Purple Luffy since its release. So I bet the starter deck 15 through 20 will get several appearances within PRBO2. Now, if you watched my tournament commentary over the Japan finals, you know that Thunder Bagua is also a card that made its appearance, right? Getting second place overall within the tournament. Thunder Bagua is a really cool event that makes a ton of sense, especially in green purple Luffy, right? Being a counter event that a lot of times you just naturally have to leave up a couple Dawn, right? Utilizing your leader effect and Sanji Pudding effect, and allows you, especially as a 4-life leader, right? You get down to 2 at a decent time. You're able to ramp, right? After using this, which can be so beneficial. I think this is a really, really good card, a really neat one. And again, just like some of the other ones, like Electrical Luna, it's doubled a little bit. It's 65 cents right now, but you know, if it gets to like $1, $1.50, because this is an OP01 rare, and this was not reprinted, I believe, in PRBO1. I might be mistaken by that, but I don't think this was put in that set. This is an OP01, a raw OP01 card. So I think that this can go higher than something like Electrical Luna faster. So especially if green purple Luffy just continues to stay meta relevant, right? The closer that we get to EB02, the more that this is going to come up. So I would just go ahead and snag it. Eustass Captain Kid as well, OP01, right? It's about a $5 card right now. Been on the uptick since the Japan finals. Really just good green SR, right? It was printed in PRB, so it's still relatively cheap. I also remember when this card was $45 per, like that was a crazy time, right? We saw this in Smoker. We saw, if you again saw that video of the 14 different green purple Luffys, this is a very common card to play in green purple Luffy, right, from EB02. This is also something that you can play in Lim, right? I talked about Lim earlier. Lim plays this card. I think whether or not you play Zoro, Lim plays this card, potentially. Could be wrong about that. Have to double check my list. But incredibly viable in a lot of different situations, especially when you're playing something like the 2-cost Rosinante or different kind of cheeky blockers like that 3-cost red card that was played in the Smoker deck list. Just really good. And I think similar to the Katakuri, right? I don't think it'll get reprinted in PRBO2 because it was reprinted in PRBO1. So now might be as good of a time as ever to go snag it. Man, I'm talking about all the OP01 cards today. Otama, right? Just like I said about the Ben Beckman, this is just a generically good red card that just so many different red decks play. Is a 2K for 1 Dawn, allows you to minus 2,000 for different combos that you have. I also remember when this card was like $5, $6, $7. Absolutely crazy at what this card started out as before it was reprinted in PRBO1. There's a couple different versions of this card that can help fit the budget, right? This reprint from PRB under $1 can save you almost a whole dollar, or well, half a dollar on the card. Or you could get a Jolly Roger that is only a little bit more, or a Judge card which is only a little bit more. Otama's just really good to have in your back pocket. Really would make sure that you have these, especially for the future of the game. Hody Jones, just like Eustass Captain Kid, generically good green card, right? We have seen this guy dominate green decks. Anything that's even half green, just play this card because it's that good, right? Resting literally anything, right? So resting 2 blockers against Nami, you're resting 2 Dawn, and just swinging at least 8,000 power for game while you still have 3 Dawn available to do whatever you want with. This Hody Jones is so good, and especially with the Jinbei coming out soon, the Shirahoshi, right? I don't know if you would play this card in those, but if you do, they're going to be great cards, and they're going to be staple cards within those decks. So for those of you that really just love the different obscure decks in format, right, like playing non-meta and stuff like that, you really need this card. Also in the same vein as pretty much a lot of other things that I've said in this video, printed in PRB01, don't believe it's going to get reprinted in PRB02. This card's been going up the last couple months, probably because of the Jinbei and Shirahoshi, I would think. I think that's probably why it's been jumping up. Okay, this is the final card of the video. I think I've talked about this guy before, right? Kaku. Kaku from OP03 is a great card in Rob Luchi decks that we always see as like a 2 of or something like that. And here's my tinfoil hat theory. Look at the meta right now. With the upcoming ban list, what could get hit? Doflamingo, I think, is up for contention. Marshall D. Teach, I think, is up for contention. I know a lot of people talk about Gum Gum Giant, but I don't know. I think it's a little bit too soon to say Gum Gum Giant. Like, before this deck came out, Purple Luffy was okay, right? And that was the only card that you can play Gum Gum Giant in. It's literally only Straw Hat decks. Rob Luchi, I feel like, has everything to gain. This gets dinged. That's a bad matchup, becomes a little bit better. This gets dinged. That's a bad matchup, a little bit becomes better. Even, this is a good matchup, right? Becomes even better if they only ding it a little bit, but it's still viable. Again, I don't think they're going to hit this at all, though. I think Rob Luchi, out of all the decks in the format, has the most to gain from the upcoming ban list. And so, especially because Kaku has the ability to trash 3 costs or less, basically 4 costs with your leader effect. I don't know, like, that guy's pretty good, and you can get his alternate art for literally under $10. Again, as always, this is always theory crafting, right? I've been right a couple times in the past, and I'm not going to sit here and say that you're going to save millions of dollars, or, you know, if you decide to buy like some of the alternate arts of these cards, because I know sometimes alternate arts go up a little bit, like, you're not gonna make millions, right? But these are just things that I notice in the Eastern meta that haven't really caught on in the West, to where if you're like me and you want to play this game for as long as possible, but you also want to be able to be money efficient, right? Because things are expensive. The price of groceries is not cheaper, unlike some of you would have thought would happen. Like, man, eggs. Anyways, that's going to be all for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed this one. Let me know what card you're trying to go for right now. I'm sure there's a card that I missed, right? I kind of just write this down for like a couple months as I see them, and then like I double check their prices, and if it's still all right, I include them in this video. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. Hope to see you in the next one.